It's fair to say this season's been a season that's seen quite a few changes so far. A lot of them haven't gone according to plan, and a lot of them aren't known to the fans. Today presents the opportunity for us to table some of the questions that the fans have wanted to know answers to for quite some time, and a chance for you, Andy, to representing the club to give those answers. And to that end, Andy, welcome.
Thanks,
and
mate.
By the way, happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you. What a great way to celebrate.
Well, you know, being here with me.
Oh, definitely. And you know, being part of Melbourne Ice, it's like my little baby, to be honest. I care that much about it.
Well, it's dear to my heart as well. So I might start on the first question that's in my mind, coaching. What happened at the start of the year, just for the fans, and maybe a lot of the fans do know this, but leading up to the appointment of Peter Enthroff?
Yeah, great question. Look, so we were really lucky and fortunate to have Charlie come off the back of some great work there. He arrived, he brought 3 imports with him that were playing with him in Tranos. So it was almost like the perfect situation, and obviously the records speak for themselves and those sorts of things. And as we know, it's also like an import player. It's very difficult to bring people back to this country with our visa situations. And so PJ and I decided that the best thing that we could do was to build a plan for the development and the long-term future of Melbourne Ice around the quality of someone like Charles. And so we promoted Charles to head of coaching and player development, knowing that to get him back to this country was going to take some time. So what did we have to do in the interim? So, you know, we started to get close to the season. We thought that it was going to make it, which would have been fantastic, and then we realised it was going to take a little bit longer. So we thought that, you know, maybe we need to have a coach kick things off. And credit to Charles, he'd already started to look around. He'd had 3 coaches in Sweden earmarked to come down. And it's really hard to say to somebody, can you go down and spend 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or a season, don't know when I'm coming, and fill in for me. And we were very fortunate to get a guy like Peter Enthroff, you know, played in the NHL, you know, his playing history just makes him an incredible character in terms of the experience and those sorts of things. Coach Poland, national team and those sorts of things. So a really high credentialed player, high credentialed coach, well respected. And came down here, I guess, with a lot of unknowns. When would he go home? How long would he be here? And most importantly, as you would know all too well, how do you go from a full pro environment where he came from to an amateur league, where you've got to motivate players to turn up every day and they've got to battle with you to say, I've got to go to work in the morning. It's a whole different environment.
Peter coached for the first 8 games and then he was thanked for his services. Who made that call and why?
Who made the call? The club collectively made that call in terms of those sorts of things. We had some challenges with regards to harmony in the room, and when you go from a massive commitment that we had in 2017, I guess there's a lot to this that builds up to these situations. So I think a lot of people realise that at the end of last year, when we set the records we did and we gave so much, players, coaches, staff, volunteers, members, etc., you don't realise how much it takes out of you. And it was very hard for us to get back into it this year, really hard. There was a massive hangover is the best way I can describe it. And so I think we've struggled to find our harmony in our room for a long time. And for us it was all about what's best for harmony, because we didn't have harmony in the room. We couldn't find it. We couldn't find it in the pre-season, couldn't find it in the first 8 games. And so collectively, as a club, listening to our leaders, our captains, listening to our staff, listening to people that we trust within the family, if I can say that, we felt that it was the right call to say we need to look within to find that harmony. And credit to Mark Smith, Josh Vellers, Sandy Gardner, Brent Laver put his hand up, lots of people put their hand up to really help us find that harmony. And we made a decision that we would go with a collective group that the team were familiar with to try and find that. And I think this past weekend, we started to see the results of that turning in a positive way.
So is Charlie still involved with Melbourne Ice?
Absolutely. As I said, at the end of last year, we promoted him to head of coaching and player development. Until he's here, it's difficult to obviously put him down here as a head coach. So he's working really, really hard for us in Sweden to continue to build on what we did with Tranås last year. So the Tranås relationship exists today. It's quite a healthy one, which is great. We've had some communication about preparing to send some players there again in this off season. But Charlie's not at Tranås this time. He'll be announced as a head coach of a new club very shortly, so we won't spoil the news on that. He needs to work over there, and we're already working with them to try and develop our junior program over there with them as well. So yes, very much so. He's building that future foundation for us because we need to invest in juniors.
That answer leads me to another question.
Sure.
If Charles is so invested in the club, I find it strange he's not communicating with the coaches that are coaching presently and offering any advice. And I find that a little bit, from a past coach, a little bit disconcerting and worrying. If he's so invested in the club, why don't the coaches hear from him?
Well, to be quite honest, he's on holiday right now. So I had a message from him just the other day. He watched this weekend, I haven't heard from him this past weekend, but the past week. And he said, didn't connect with the guys to have a chat about the game. Let's connect next week. It's the summer solstice. I'll be back in a week's time. So we'll connect. I've already had a chat with Mark Smitty, to say that I'd connect him with there, and Charlie knows that. So that process will start, that's for sure.
Taking it to another tact here, fans have been wondering a little bit this year about how the club has handled the loss of some players of note. Jason Backlig, if you can throw a bit of light on some of these players and where they're at. Jason Backlig, Dane Davis, Joey Hughes, Jeremy Brown, just to throw some names at you. Yeah. I mean, you know, the club's a bit light on this year. Where are they at and what happened to them?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think there's a lot in that question, and it's a great question. So whoever asked that, thank you for, putting that forward. Everyone who plays for Melbourne Ice is really critical to obviously how we perform and the results that show from that. And this year we certainly are short. You would have seen in the pre-season, we kept a 37-man roster and we went very deep into the juniors here in Victoria. We even had a junior from Queensland come down. We even reached out to some Kiwi players and those sorts of things, knowing that we were going to go through some really tough time, particularly with the disruptive start with the late World Championships, the way that our pre-season was going, etc. In addition to that, we've got an aging core as well. No one would, tell it any other way. The guys that we've relied on since, gosh, before we even were here at the arena in Docklands. Those guys are. Some have already moved on. Others are now getting married and having children. The Tommies, the Armies, the Baxies, etc., all married, all having kids and those sorts of things. So with Jason, he's battling an injury. We don't talk about details of injuries. It's just a club policy or anything, but he has a long-term injury, and so we're helping him through that. Whether he plays or not this year is something we don't know. For him, out of all respect for him, it's given him an opportunity to be with his young son, his wife, to explore his music and do those things. So I'm really happy for him in that respect. But I can tell you it eats him every day that he can't play. And so we don't see a lot of him because it really hurts him just to be around the team. He just wants to be on the ice. He just wants to help the team in terms of those things. With Dane, wow, how privileged were we to have such a keeper like Dane Davis come down. And it was difficult for him having to fly down, having a young family, a baby born during the season, a business that was growing, a new business opportunity, partnership, etc. And at the end of the season, it was a really easy conversation with Dane. What do you want to do? We originally were hoping that we'd look for 2, possibly 3 years with Dane. and he just wanted to go home. He wanted to be with family. He didn't want to travel. You know, we were hoping that Dane would come down midweek every single week and be able to work from here and those sorts of things, and it just didn't work out that way for him. And then along come the Bubs, and you know, really happy to see him go back to Newcastle. And you know, I saw him on the weekend, and we had a good chat, and he's playing really, really well.
Joey Hughes? Yeah. Jeremy Brown?
So let's start with Jeremy. Had a great season after winning the Cup down here, went to Borrow in Sweden, played extremely well. Caught up with him with the tour when we were over there, and spoke to him about coming down, and he was very, very focused on his uni. He needs to finish that. He's doing forensic science. So we looked at possible unis down here, and he hadn't been home for a while. Mel was back in Canada. So decided to go home to Canada, focus on his uni, have a summer off, because he'd been playing hockey for a full year, and we know how taxing that is. And communicated the other day, just reached out to see how we're going, and hopefully he'll come back soon, maybe next year, or when he finishes. I don't know when he'll come back, or if at all, but we're just really grateful that we were able to help him take that journey. In terms of Joey, what can we say anymore? A hell of a player, hell of a person. It's been part of Melbourne Ice for, you know, ever and a day, back in the Oakley days to the three-peat. Left the club, went and helped another club here in the Melbourne Mustangs win a cup, and you know, how can you not feel proud for a person that can do that? Without doubt, best player in the country as an Aussie. And you know, at the end of the day, I think he took an opportunity to go and help another club win a championship that's close to winning a championship. And if he can help us win 3, Mustangs win 1, and possibly help the Brave win 1, what a way to finish out a career or continue a career. You know, he's probably a player that will never retire. You know, he knows as much as anyone, he's welcome back anytime, just like last time. So, you know, we just wish him all the luck and hope he enjoys playing.
You mentioned a couple of players before that have been missing in the last couple of games, Matt Armstrong and Tommy Powell. Can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, look, it's difficult to talk about that. One, to be quite honest, suspensions and suspension notices don't have a really good protocol around it at the moment. So rather than, I guess, treading a difficult line with that one, we got a very late suspension notice for those players. So we just chose to let it be, and we'll follow that up as it goes in terms of those things. Look, communicating what happens behind closed doors, and I say closed doors because lots of things has to happen to make a league like this run and a club like ours run. And you know, we've got to make some hard decisions, we've got to have hard conversations, we challenge things, we go to tribunals, we go to committee meetings and all those sorts of things, and a lot goes on to make our product great. And I take the point on Tommy and Army as a really good one from the fans to say we can be better at this. And so, you know, sitting down with you, I guess, is a bit of a step to doing that, and maybe we can do more of this. And we as a club realise that we need to be better at communicating that. So we'll try and be better in the future. I'm not making an excuse for anything, but we'll be better.
The last 9 games have made for some uncomfortable results. I mean, do you have any insight into that, and while you contemplate the answer to that, I'll give you the stat. Melbourne Ice have taken 107 shots the last 9 games, third periods only, and only scored 2 goals. That in itself can do your head in. But do you have any insights as to the results of the last 9 games? Was there any pattern emerging? Is there something underlying there?
Yeah, great question. Whoever asked it, fantastic. Thanks for doing the stats. But, you know, look, I have a simple analogy, right? Is that when your marriage breaks down, or you break up with your girlfriend, or you get divorced, or whatever it might be, there's lots of things that go to it. There's not a single thing to why that happened. It's a multiple of things that do that. So as much as you could focus on that one stat, it's probably not going to answer the question, right, in terms of what's going on, in terms of those sorts of things. And I think, as I alluded before, we have struggled to find great harmony in our team this year. It's been a really disruptive, interrupted start to the season for lots of reasons. As I said, it feels like a divorce, right? And so that now that we're finding the harmony, and credit to our coaches, look at last weekend, we had 2 fantastic games. One game on Sunday was just outstanding. You know, I shook Gary Dore's hand at the end of the game and he goes, I thought you had us all game. And everyone said Melbourne Ice played really well. We had 16 players, a really short bench. So if you take 9 players that were out of the core from last year, no AHL team is that deep. And for us to be 1 goal away from winning a game, going from giving up goals, we're making progress. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Analogy couldn't be drawn. Third period fade outs. Could it relate back to, let's take it all the way back to the top with management? Is the trust factor there with the management to the coaches, to the players?
Ah, well, that's a good one to talk about trust. You and I used to battle that one all the time. You know, where is the line between management, a team, a player, a coach with regards to trust? And I think this pre-season you and I might have had one of the biggest discussions about what that looks like. And to be fair with that, the team knows that they're okay. From a club perspective, the club's fine, it's healthy in terms of those sorts of things. We haven't been able to put it together. As I said, lots of disruptive season, those sorts of things. The perfect whirlwind last year and all those going on. Players out, injuries, I mean, seriously, you know, Chris Wong, Jack Carpenter, 2 Australian players still suffering concussion, right? Still suffering concussion. Really tough for them. So, as I said, it's a bit like a marriage breakdown. Lots of things go together. Is there trust? Absolutely. You saw it on the weekend. I travelled with the team. We stayed together. We were smiling, we were laughing, and we played incredibly well on Sunday. So, well done to the boys there.
You always talk about how important the fans are to the club. And so what strategies do you have going forward to ensure that the fans are kept in the loop and there's no second guessing?
To be really honest, you know, as a leader in the club, I think we can do better. And sitting down tonight is a start for that in the first instance. I think our social media team have created a really nice cadence, you know, 2 minutes in the box, regular game post, etc. And to be really honest, the members get the ice blast, and the ice blast has been going out but not as regularly, so we're going to make that a little bit more regular as well. So I really think about the members first, to be honest, Jaff. We've got lots of fans, don't get me wrong, and they're all part of the Melbourne Ice family, Melbourne's biggest family, as we used to always say. None of that's changed, but the members are the heart and soul of our club, and so they come first, and they subscribe to the ice blast. And we'll put a lot more out of that. We're going to try and get to a cadence where we put that out every week. We have a player update in there, we have a team update, we have a club update, we have lots of events that it gets announced there. For us, that's the pulse. That's where it all sits. So, you know, membership's important, so we're happy to hear from them. I think you'd be aware that we hold member forums every year. Last year we had 2 as well, and so we take feedback from them in those sessions. We're going to do that again this year as well. So we're not going to let down, but we know that we can be better. We can always be better.
What sort of things is the club doing to develop local players, young players?
The club is building a health and wellness program. It's using our own players, our own team staff and other individuals that have been involved with the club for many years to help us build that. And so rather than just rush in and say, hey, we're going to throw some money at local development and buy a bit of ice, we want to build a structured program, a proper program where we can actually take juniors through and develop them, not just from a skating point of view, but from the 4 pillars. So we want them to have a mindset, we want them to be able to eat right, we want them to be able to move right, we want them to be able to recover right. That's our focus. And so this year, we've given a lot of juniors an opportunity to play in the pre-season, and we saw lots of them, and they did us proud. They won the Warrior Cup, for crying out loud. You know, what a fantastic result. If you give people an opportunity, they can do well.
What's your primary focus for the remainder of the season?
There isn't a single player in those rooms who doesn't believe that they can make the finals, so that's a focus. So our leadership is all about helping them achieve that goal. That's what our job is in terms of those sorts of things. So we're giving them all the tools that we can possibly do in this disruptive season. I think there's, 47 or 48 points left to go to win for us. So it's a very doable goal for these guys, and they believe in that. So what are we doing about it? We're there supporting them, we're listening to them on that effort, and that's where we're focused.
When the club was privatised not so long ago, it was mentioned that eventually there'd be an opportunity for shares to be offered to the members to the club. Is that still going to happen at some stage?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to honour everything that we ever put down with regards to our offer in terms of those things. The transition period took almost 12 months longer than what was projected, and so now that we're through that, and we're only just through that, by the way, so it took almost to the end of last year to complete that process. We can now audit that, and we can put out the proper communication to those members that were part of the club at that time. They're the ones who will be able to take those opportunities.
Is Melbourne Ice still true to its mission statement?
Great question. Is that from a fan or from you, Jeff?
It's from me.
Great organisations never have to change their mission, and so we don't either. And we don't need to change our values, because those values are embedded in the mission. To be the best club in the Australian Ice Hockey League, that's what we're all about. We're not going to change that. To be a club that's, a club of choice for players, we're not going to change that. The fact that we're still attracting lots of juniors to our club and doing those things is that there's evidence that we do that well. Can we do it better? Yes, absolutely. We have to get better, because everybody else around us is going to get better. But I think you're alluding more so to the values, of honesty, integrity, openness, hospitality, family spirit, transparency, those sorts of things that we embed in the Patrons Medal and those sorts of things. Without a doubt, that's not changing, and it never will.
Is there anything exciting coming up that we don't know anything about yet that you could let us in on?
God, we're getting smashed on the communications tonight. Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's heaps of things that are happening. So first of all, this coming weekend, besides having always a great derby on Friday night, and I think Friday night derbies are exciting. I don't know what the fans think, so I'd love to hear more about that, going from a Thursday to a Friday. But on Saturday, it's the Canada Cup, our annual event against the Bears. And obviously, we're going to have a big themed Canadian Day. We've got Canadian jerseys coming out again. Yes, we're doing another Canadian jersey or another themed jersey. We're good at that. But it's something to pay respect to some of the heritage of our game and the history of our game. But most importantly, we have the Teddy Bear Toss. And this year, we've partnered with 4 charities, and that's a really, really good thing for this club. So on Saturday, we're honouring the Alana Madeline Foundation. They have their own teddy bears. It's an incredible foundation founded out of adversity, like most of them are, and helping those kids go through such difficult times. So you'll be able to buy a teddy bear from them for $10, toss it on the ice when the first goal gets scored, and those teddy bears are going to go back to kids that really want it. So, a great event to be part of. It's a Canadian hockey tradition, and we're helping a local charity, which is great. As we go through the year, we're going to have some more theme days coming up as well. We're going to honour our charities. We're going to do a walk with 300 blankets, an incredible charity that was founded by a couple of Vietnamese students that came to Australia, and they were shocked by the homeless on the streets here in Melbourne. And they said, wouldn't it be great if we could give out 300 blankets in a year? They gave out nearly 15,000. So it's a real nice privilege to be helping our local community. And I remember, back when I first got involved in Melbourne Ice, back in the Oakley days, we always spoke about supporting our local community. So I'm really proud that we're doing that. So I think that's a good thing in terms of those. In addition to that, we're going to finish the year with something really special. We're going to finish the year with an alumni day. We're going to do something really special with the jersey, and we're going to do something really special with the past players. I'm not going to say any more, because I think we can communicate that message better than me just sitting in this chair. But mark your diaries for the last game. It's going to be a massive weekend. We're going to really pay respect to the history of the club. We've been around for 18 years, or 16, 17, 18 years, whatever. It's almost as long as Google. Almost as long as Google. Longer than Facebook, right? So there's a lot of heritage in there, and we've never really had a great opportunity to honour all of that. So we're going to do that. So lots of great things coming, yes.
Andy, it's been good to air the questions from the fans that have come forward today. And also, from my point of view, and it is personal, is that the observation and a criticism, I think the communication could have been better this year, so far this year, especially from management to coaches and the way that was all handled. But yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today's the gift. And I thank you, and you've anything you wish to wrap up with in relation to the fans that are out there?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jeff. Look, first of all, great opportunity to be here. I hope that maybe we can turn this into a regular thing. I think it's a great way to communicate. Always happy to take questions from fans, but first and foremost, to everyone who turns up to our games, buys a ticket, but more importantly, the members who put their hands in their pocket at the beginning of the season to really give us the heart and soul to go forward, to help those boys do what they do. We thank you, and we need you. There's a great saying from our founding patron, Josh Pulse. Success is not trophies in the cabinet. Success is us living to our mission. And so we need everyone to do that. And tonight is, I hope, us showing our soul that that's what we want to do. So come join us. If we get a trophy at the end of the year, well, that's a bonus. But seeing the stands full and a smile on the boys' faces, that's all we need.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks.